Game of Thrones is often praised for its storytelling, but its real mastery lies in its filmmaking, practical effects, CGI, prosthetics, miniature sets, motion rigs, pyrotechnics. The series blended every technique in the book. You've seen the dragons, the battles, the destruction, but trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Because behind every jaw-dropping scene in Game of Thrones hides a fascinating piece of filmmaking engineering. And today, we're going deep into all of it. When audiences watch Game of Thrones, the dragons look so real that it almost feels like HBO found actual fire-breathing creatures somewhere in the world. But behind this illusion is a massive world of CGI, animatronics, and clever filmmaking tricks that brought these mythical beasts to life. Even though the dragons themselves were entirely digital creations, the actors had to interact with them in extremely physical ways, touching them, riding them, and even imagining the wind rushing past while flying. So, the production team built a full ecosystem of special rigs, mechanical setups, and textured props to make every scene believable on set. For every dragon riding scene, Emilia Clarke, Kit Harington, and other actors sat on top of a green mechanical rig, often called the Dragon Buck. This wasn't just a simple seat, it was a motorized motion simulator built with hydraulics to rise, tilt, and shake, motorized joints to mimic wing flap, a green screen mount so the VFX team could erase everything later, wind machines blasting at full speed to create realistic flying turbulence. On camera, these rigs looked strange, basically giant metal frames covered in green foam. But once the visual effects team layered the CGI dragon over them, the motion synced perfectly, making it appear as though the actor was genuinely gripping the scale of a living beast mid-flight. For close-up scenes like Daenerys placing her hand on Drogon's snout, or Jon calming Rhaegal, the crew used large sculpted dragon skin pieces with detailed scales and textured silicone surfaces, allowing the actors to physically connect with something real before these partial props were digitally replaced with full dragons in post-production. Emilia Clarke once revealed that early dragon scenes were embarrassingly awkward. Instead of a majestic creature she had to sit on, a hard green shell, all while pretending that she was bonding with a mythical 60-foot monster. And the emotional sincerity you see in her scenes came entirely from imagination, supported by a team of 20 people controlling the rig. After filming, the real magic began. VFX artists at Pixelmondo and other studios added digitally animated wings, created fire, smoke, and embers, simulated muscle movement under the skin, blended lighting so dragon shadows matched real scenes, enhanced scale textures, eyes, heat distortion, and fire glow. Their work was so sophisticated that even today, Game of Thrones dragons are considered some of the best CGI creatures ever created for television. To capture the dragon's fiery attacks with authentic intensity, the crew used a massive motion-controlled rig fitted with a real flamethrower. This practical fire element was choreographed to mimic the exact path of the CGI dragon, so the flames could blend flawlessly with the digital creature later. By mixing real fire, precise crane movements, and VFX enhancements, the team created shots that felt brutally real on screen. In Season 8 of Game of Thrones, one of the most chilling early moments unfolds at the abandoned castle of Last Hearth, where Tormund and Beric discover a grotesque spiral made of severed limbs, and at its center the lifeless body of young Ned Umber. But the way the disturbing sequence was created behind the scenes is even more fascinating than what appears on screen. Instead of relying on CGI, the production team decided to build the entire spiral practically, assembling dozens of prosthetic arms, legs, ribs, and other fake body parts into a massive, terrifying symbol fixed directly onto the set's stone wall. For the hanging of Ned Umber, actor Harry Grasby was fitted into a support harness to achieve the exact posture, limpness, and facial tension needed to make the moment look authentically horrifying. When the scene shifts from eerie stillness to sudden chaos, Ned awakening as a shrieking white, his burning collapse was filmed practically using a stunt double coated in flame-retardant gel, performing the controlled fire stunt under the watch of safety crews, fire experts, and stunt coordinators ready to intervene at a moment's notice. Even the wall-mounted spiral was treated with flame-resistant chemicals, so the fire would crawl naturally over each limb, creating the iconic fiery swirl that bursts to life on screen. After capturing the real flames and practical stunt work, the VFX team added only subtle enhancements, sharpening the glow, darkening the shadows, and giving the final scene its unforgettable nightmarish impact. The Battle of the Bastards is widely considered one of the most legendary achievements in Game of Thrones, but the scale and precision required to bring this chaotic war to life were just as extraordinary behind the scenes. Director Miguel Sapochnik spent months planning the sequence, which was filmed in Northern Ireland's Saintfield region, where the production team transformed open farmland into a brutal mud-soaked battlefield, using nearly 160 tons of imported dirt to create uneven, treacherous terrain. Over 500 extras and more than 70 trained horses performed in tightly choreographed formations, each soldier and rider given individualized combat training, so their movements felt chaotic yet believable. Because modern stunt regulations forbid dangerous collisions involving real horses, most crushing impacts and high-risk falls were created using CGI. But close-up, gallop, charges, and near collisions were shot practically, supervised every second by stunt riders and safety teams. The iconic moment where Jon Snow stands alone as Ramsay's army charges toward him appears to be a single continuous take, but was actually stitched together from multiple carefully planned shots, seamlessly edited to look like one breathtaking, uninterrupted sequence. Pyrotechnics, prosthetic corpses, spurting blood effects, and crowd replication software helped create the massive scale of the war, making the battlefield feel suffocating and alive. In the unforgettable Dragon Pit sequence, where Jon Snow and his allies attempt to convince Cersei that the White Walkers are real, the creation of the horrifying skeleton White required an intricate blend of prosthetics, stunt performance, and digital effects. Instead of relying solely on CGI, the team began with a real stunt performer wearing a skin-tight motion capture suit, with sections of green fabric placed strategically wherever parts of the body would later be erased. Over the suit, artists applied an ultra-thin layer of latex and silicone prosthetics designed to cling tightly to the performer's frame and create the unsettling illusion of shriveled skin stretched over bone. The result was a disturbingly lifelike creature that could move, twitch, and stumble in ways that a fully CGI model never could. For the shocking moment when the White is sliced in half, its torso continuing to claw forward while its legs collapse. The lower half of the performer's body was completely covered in green material and later digitally removed, allowing only the upper body to remain visible on screen. VFX artists then blended the practical performance with digital enhancements, sharpening textures, adding bone details, and animating the unnatural movements that complete the illusion. The combination of real stunt work and CGI augmentation gave the Dragon Pit White a uniquely grounded presence, making it one of the most convincing and terrifying creatures ever brought into the Game of Thrones world. Dragonstone's iconic dark, almost gothic aura that we see on screen is actually a seamless blend of real locations, practical builds, and heavy CGI wizardry. House Targaryen's ancestral seat looks massive, ancient, and carved straight out of volcanic rock. But in reality, a castle of that scale doesn't exist anywhere in the real world. So, the filmmakers built Dragonstone using a clever combination of nature and digital artistry. The foundation of Dragonstone's look came from a real location in Spain, San Juan de Gatello Gachi, a dramatic island on the Basque coast. This place naturally carries the same eerie, powerful vibe the show wanted, from its towering cliffs and violent crashing waves, to the long zigzagging stairway carved into the rocky hillside. These elements were all captured practically, giving the scenes a gritty authenticity and raw atmosphere that CGI alone could never replicate. To make this believable, the production team first created high-detail 3D scans of the real cliffs and stairways. Then VFX artists digitally constructed the full Dragonstone fortress on top of those scans, crafting its rough volcanic textures, centuries-old cracks, weathered stone, and the haunting silhouettes that define the castle's appearance. Finally, the environment was brought to life with subtle atmospheric elements. Digital mist rolling across the cliffs, sea spray particles, moody cloud layers, distant seagulls, and the cold storm-soaked lighting that makes Dragonstone feel like a place where centuries of dark history still echo in the wind. In Season 7 of Game of Thrones, the iconic sea battle sequence where the Silence and the Iron Fleet ambush and annihilate the Greyjoy ships was crafted through an impressive blend of practical sets, CGI, and massive VFX work. Instead of filming on an actual ocean, the production built a large stage surrounded by a 60-foot green screen, with only a portion of a ship's deck constructed physically for the actors to perform on. Everything else, the open sea, the distant horizon, the towering waves, the dozens of surrounding vessels, and even entire sections of the Greyjoy fleet, was digitally created by Rodeo FX. They generated full CG ocean simulations with waves, spray, foam, and sometimes over 100 digital ships packed into a single shot. The on-set practical effects added another layer of realism. Real fire elements, mist, debris, bursts, water sprays, and smoke machines were used to give the actors something physical to react to, while additional flames on the sails, drifting embers, falling debris, and background destruction were enhanced or entirely created in post. Later in compositing, Rodeo FX meticulously blended every practical and digital layer, adjusting lighting, reflections, fire glow, wave interactions, smoke trails, and atmospheric ash, so that the final battle looked chaotic, immersive, and seamlessly real on screen. After Daenerys' fiery destruction of King's Landing, the ruined throne room became one of the most ambitious VFX achievements in Game of Thrones. The production had a small practical section of the hall built, but almost everything you see on screen, collapsed pillars, scorched walls, drifting ash, burning debris, was created digitally. Scanline VFX built a full 3D model of the entire area and ran procedural destruction simulations to break buildings, crack the stone floor, and scatter rubble realistically. To add authenticity, real flamethrower blasts were filmed on set, which were later enhanced with CG fire, smoke plumes, and particle effects. The most iconic moment, the Iron Throne melting under Drogon's fire, was completely CGI, using fluid simulation software to animate molten metal dripping, glowing heat waves, and the stone floor buckling beneath the intense temperature. This blend of real fire, plates, and digital destruction gave the sequence its epic, apocalyptic feel. Despite appearing massive on screen, the wall's real set was surprisingly small. The bottom portion was filmed at a quarry in Northern Ireland, where only ground-level rocks and a minimal wall segment were constructed. Everything else, the towering 700-foot ice surface, the wind-blasted top, the distant snowy landscape, was fully CGI. VFX teams used subsurface scattering shaders to simulate the look of thick ice, then added digital snowstorms, blowing frost and atmospheric fog to complete the environment. Dubrovnik's Jesuit Stairs served as one of the most iconic real-world locations for King's Landing. Scenes with crowds, conversations, or daily city life were shot practically on the historic steps. But whenever the story required large-scale destruction, especially the Great Sept explosion in Season 6, the location was digitally transformed. CG artists recreated upper building sections, added sweeping blast waves, falling stones, burning debris, rising smoke, and collapsing structures. Actors and extras remained real, but everything above eye level was enhanced or completely replaced with CGI. This combination made the explosion look devastating without damaging the actual historic location. Volantis, one of Essos's grandest cities, had very limited physical sets. Most of what audiences saw, its sprawling marketplaces, towering bridge structures, dense rooftops, and massive river networks, was created with digital matte paintings and full CG extensions. Many fans believe the Roman bridge in Cordoba was directly used for Volantis, but the reality is more technical. The bridge was mostly used as a visual reference, not as a filmmaking location. VFX teams used its architectural design, proportions, and weathered stone texture as inspiration. They then digitally rebuilt it into a massive super bridge stretching across a CG river, surrounded by high towers, walkways, and bustling digital crowds. The final shots you see in the show are entirely CGI. The real bridge never appears on camera, only its digital reinterpretation. The White Walkers and the Undead Army were brought to life using a mix of prosthetics and CGI. Close-ups used real actors in prosthetic makeup, giving the creatures texture and realism. But for the massive scenes, thousands of whites marching, climbing, or swarming, Rodeo FX used CG crowd simulations. Every digital white was animated with decayed skin, skeletal movement, glowing eyes, and icy breath. Weather effects like blizzards, snowstorms, and swirling frost were almost entirely digital. The Night King himself was a hybrid, practical makeup enhanced with CG skin detail, blue eye illumination, and subtle icy texture work. The result was an army that felt terrifyingly alive and endless. Winterfell had a partial physical set consisting of the courtyard, the main gate, and short sections of the surrounding walls. Everything else, the towering battlements, far-off structures, rooftops, extensions of the walls, and the vast snowy landscape was achieved through CGI. And that is the real Westeros, a world forged equally through imagination and engineering. It took thousands of artists, VFX teams, stunt performers, set builders, pyrotechnic experts, and digital designers to create what became the most visually ambitious series in television history. Every collapsed building, every burning ship, every icy battlefield, every dragon flight, none of it happened by accident. It was crafted piece by piece, layer by layer, until fantasy felt indistinguishably real. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden world behind these iconic scenes, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Root Studio, for more behind-the-scenes breakdowns of the world's greatest movies and shows.